Hello, everyone. Good morning. Please confirm you can hear me. Okay. Thank you, Shakira. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining the session. Um, you're welcome to another week on our discussion of radical conduct. Um, we've seen some signs of this radical conduct in some of the things in some of the meetings that we've been in, and it's been very exciting to actually see that we're actually taking this up seriously. Today we'll be talking about giving feedback and receiving feedback like a pro, and the phenomenal Shakira will be doing justice to the topic for us. Hi, Shakira. Good morning. What's you?
Hi, Samuel. Morning. Morning, everyone. I trust your week has been great so far. Um, Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Okay, so I've been tasked with delivering the session on the feedback loop, providing constructive feedback and receiving it like a pro, right? Like Samuel mentioned, this is the month of radical candor within the team. And based on Samuel's session last week, we talked about radical candor. And the two highlights for me from that session is caring personally and challenging directly, right? So my session today is closely linked to that on challenging directly, which is basically feedback, right? So how do we provide feedback, constructive feedback, and also receive it? So I'll be starting off my session with this quote, and I want us to bear this in mind every time. You don't know what you don't know, right? As simple as that sounds, I think for most of us, or even all of us, right, that's actually the truth, right? If you do not know something, you actually don't know it. And until someone points it out, years would go by and you would never even know that that thing or that situation exists, right? So please bear that in mind every time. You don't know what you don't know. So I'll be starting off with the definition of feedback. And we see here that feedback is a communication process, right? So communication, effective communication, like we know, is two ways, right? It has to be from the giver to the receiver and otherwise. And feedback is critical to helping employees understand expectations, make adjustments, and get the coaching necessary to improve performance and succeed, right? Without feedback, you don't know if you're doing something well or not. Without feedback, you're not able to make necessary adjustments to improve your work. Without feedback, you're not able to get coaching, right? And coaching is very critical to succeeding as a professional. It's also here that feedback is designed to note when things are going right or wrong, right? It's important to clearly highlight here that you don't give feedback when things are going just wrong. We also should give feedback when things are going right as well. Sorry, Liana's trying to join us in our session today. Right. So performance feedback is useless unless there's a standard of performance communicated between both parties. As we're all aware, we just recently completed our appraisal session, right? And that is a form of performance feedback. And for you to be able to go through the appraisal process, you need to understand what the standard of performance is, such that you can judge yourself against it, right? Am I doing what is expected of me? At what level am I? Sorry. So if you don't know what the standard of performance is, you're not able to judge yourself. And it will be very unfair for the other person who is giving you feedback to judge you, because you're asking yourself, against what standards are you giving me this feedback, right? So as we relate with our teams, as we work with our team members and our line managers, we should understand what the standard of performance is, what the expectation is, such that when you're getting the feedback, it is directly related to that standard of performance. So feedback benefits both us as employees and our line managers, right? For us, it gives us a level of higher satisfaction and morale. especially in instances where you're getting positive feedback, right? You're able to feel more satisfied and energized to do more. It also serves as an opportunity for others to learn from you, right? Because it has been clearly highlighted that you're doing something that works. Feedback also helps to reduce friction or issues of the job. So for some of us, right, we might probably be delivering our work very late or we're delivering subpar work, right? If we do not receive feedback and during that session agree on ways to improve performance, you can constantly be frustrated on a particular task because you do not know how else to do it, right? So feedback is an opportunity to reduce, it provides an opportunity to help you know what to do better, such that you're less frustrated on the job and you're also experiencing less issues. Closely related to that is the fact that it saves time and money. So if it ideally is expected that you should spend an hour on a job and you're spending 4 hours and you do get feedback on that, in going through the session, you're also able to know, okay, how can I save time? Are there new tools I can use? Is there someone within the team I can speak to, right? And in saving time, you're obviously saving money because every time wasted is also money wasted, right? Feedback also provides a clear understanding of expectations, like I rightly said earlier, especially in relation to performance feedback, right? You understand what the expectations are, and you're able to, in getting the feedback, you're able to tie that to what the standards of expectations are. And last but not the least, it serves as an opportunity to receive coaching, right? In the following slide, we understand what coaching really means. And yes, so feedback serves as that opportunity to receive coaching to help you improve on your performance on the job. For line managers and for others also leading teams or even leading the business, right? It serves as an opportunity to identify performance issues and leadership problems. Like I mentioned earlier, feedback is a communication process, meaning it goes between both the giver and the receiver, right? And as such, in getting feedback from the team, you're able to understand what the pain points are, what the performance issues are, and what your leadership problems are, right? It might be the result you might be getting from your team might be as a result of leadership problems. And if you do not get feedback, you do not know that those exist. Another benefit of feedback is that it facilitates effective leading of the organization, right? With getting feedback and improving on your performance, you're able to effectively lead the organization accordingly. So what are the areas we can give feedback in the workplace? And this is particularly important because we need to highlight different areas. For most of us, we would ideally give feedback when it comes to quality of work, but there are also other areas we can give feedback, right? So quality of work is very clear. Is your work meeting quality standards? Apologies. So is your work meeting the standards that is expected in terms of quality, right? That's a very visible area to give feedback. Also, in terms of work habits, yes, so how well are you performing on the job? Do you typically come late to meetings, for example, or are you what's it called? Are you want to deliver work outside the relevant deadlines, right? These are areas of feedback when it comes to work habits. There are also service habits as well. As we know, we're a service-based organization and we do work with external clients, right? We can also get feedback in those areas as it relates to working with external parties. It might be clients, it might be vendors, right? And those fall under the broad group of service habits. Another area of feedback which we typically have is feedback on team skills, right? And that's how we relate with each other on the team, how we work internally within the business.
Okay. I want to know if Shakira It's still going to join. Check for a minute. Okay. Please just give her a minute. What's going on? Okay, so while Shakira joins, let's just do a brief recap on things that she has mentioned. So does anyone want to share how they've been able to give feedback to, or what their process or framework is for giving feedback to anyone, maybe the direct reports or your line manager, as the case may be. Does anyone want to share?
Samuel?
Okay, so okay. Are you
I'm
back,
not able to
Shakira?
share examples. Yes, I am.
Okay, please go on.
Okay, all right then. Thank you, Samuel. And when do we receive feedback, right? Times we can receive feedback include during one-on-one sessions, which is ideal, right? Also at the end of the work day, right? Feedback doesn't have to be serious. You just have to. It can be requested both formally and informally. The formal process would be the appraisal session, or even but it can be requested more informally, which is ideal. Also, postmortem session, which is something we do very well here, is an opportunity to receive feedback, right? What did you do well on the project? What can we improve on? What should we look forward to on the next project? Yes. So, what are the types of feedback, right? They fall under two major categories, positive or negative feedback, right? And like I mentioned earlier, for most of us, we associate feedback with being, we associate feedback with negative feedback, but there's also positive feedback as well. Um, so for positive feedback, we have appreciation, right? And in appreciating someone, that's where you recognize and reward someone for great work, right? We should always remember we should not necessarily give feedback all the time. We should encourage good behavior by giving positive feedback as well, highlighting what team members have done so that they can replicate that behavior, and also a learning opportunity for others as well. Um, the other two broad categories of feedback can either be positive or negative, right? That's instances where you're coaching a team member, right? You're helping them understand their knowledge. Can you take this for a bit, please? 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So back to our questions. I just wanted to know if we currently give feedback, or how we do it between ourselves. Really, I just want to know how we do it, or if we don't do it at all, please also share. Let's know how you do it. I'd like people to raise their hands, but if I don't get any hands up, I'll just go around the room again. So I start with Ayatunde. So I know Ayatunde knows how to give feedback, right? So Ayatunde, please, can you share your process? And then do you enjoy giving feedback? I just wanted to know.
All right. Good morning. Sorry. The weather is under me. So yes, I don't necessarily enjoy giving feedback, but I realize that feedback has to be given. I try as much as possible to give feedback. The way I know is to pull out of the situation, right, momentarily. So try as much as possible not to react in the midst of that situation, right? Take a time to sort of brainstorm and think about, okay, am I reacting emotionally? Or is it the right conversation, right? Before I give feedback. If I'm ascertaining that there's no emotional attachment as such, right, in the instance, then I can give direct feedback. Otherwise, I'd rather do the feedback session maybe at a much later time where I'm calmer, I've thought through the situation and analyzed it a bit, before providing feedback.
Thank you so much, Atunde.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Atunde.
I'm sorry about your health. Yeah. Just go on, Shakirah.
Oh, yes. Get well soon, Atunde. Yeah, thank you, guys. So there are two broad categories of feedback. You have positive and negative. Positive feedback, you have appreciation, right? And that's when you're giving, you're recognizing the good task or the good quality in that person or what was done right, and you're rewarding them in some instances for it, but more importantly, recognizing it and highlighting it, right? In the other instances of feedback, the other types of feedback, you have coaching or evaluation, and they can be both positive or negative. When you're coaching someone, you're helping the team member understand what their knowledge is, what their skills are, and what their capabilities are, and you're helping them to improve on that. In evaluating, which is what we know as performance feedback, you're assessing someone or team members against set standards. You're aligning expectations and you're informing decision making to help them improve on their performance. So to highlight, feedback is not necessarily negative, right? You could appreciate someone, which is more positive, and you could coach someone, which could either be positive or trying to improve negative behavior to becoming positive. So how do we give feedback? And there are several points I've highlighted here. First and foremost, feedback is best served warm, right? I like I attended an example on the fact that he's stepping out of the situation to ensure that he's not reacting emotionally, right? One of our core values is care. And in giving feedback, we have to ensure that we're showing care towards the other person. Like someone mentioned towards the session on radical candor, right? It's caring and then challenging directly. We must ensure that our feedback, either positive or negative, is wrapped with care. Also, in the process of giving feedback, be patient and show empathy through the process. So, especially in instances where you're giving negative feedback, the team member may be struggling in some certain areas, right? So you have to be patient through the process, just so the team member understand what message is being passed across. They receive it appropriately and they can act towards it. If the feedback comes through as harsh or without care, there's tendency for us as humans to receive it very negatively, right? The third point is around establishing rapport. And in giving feedback, we have to quote, water the ground. You do not come directly. You have to try to understand what the person's situation. Questions such as, oh, how's your day going? What's your experience on the job? What's been the most challenging thing today? That kind of softens the ground and makes the person more receptive to receiving feedback, right? Going more directly might feel like an attack, but when you establish rapport, you're both on the same page. You can judge the person's state of mind and then give the feedback appropriately. Before actually giving feedback, you also have to get feedback just so you know how to directly give the feedback and also improve on new goals for improvement, right? So in giving feedback, make sure you're getting feedback as well, in line with the fact that it's a communication process. It's two-way street. Another important point in giving feedback, I'm sure we're all aware, is using constructive language, right? Is using constructive language that encourages improvement and doesn't attack the person or diminishes the person, right? You also have to pay attention to your language and the tone. We do know that in communicating, there are different aspects. There's the words that we speak, there's our language as well, there's the tone, there are also body cues, right? We should pay attention to our language and tone in giving feedback. We also have to be as honest and clear as possible. You do not honest and clear, specific as possible. You're giving very clear feedback that the person understands, such that it doesn't put the person in a situation where they do not understand what you're communicating, what you're recognizing or telling them to improve upon. It's also best to give feedback with examples, just so that in the mind of the receiver, they clearly know in what situation that happened, and they can apply that to several situations in the future. Avoid vague statements, avoid general statements, be as clear as possible. In giving feedback as well, ensure to end on a positive note. So you do not just give feedback and go away from the process. Just the way you started with establishing rapport, trying to understand how the person is doing, what's their state of mind. Closing from that feedback as well is ending on a positive note to say, I do see the effort. So in an example, I do see the effort you're putting into the work, but please take note of this feedback that has been given to you. And also, last but not the least, feedback is a communication process, like I keep highlighting. You also need to ask for feedback. As a line manager, as a team member giving feedback, you also need to ask for feedback. Ideally, you should be proactive in asking feedback, but a session in which you're giving feedback as well is an opportunity to receive feedback. What did the person understand by the feedback that was being shared? What should you as a person as well improve upon as a line manager, as a team lead? That's critical to giving feedback. A good framework to use is the SBI, and in doing my research, I framework, right? For some of us, we do know the framework of starting with positive, the sandwich method, which is starting with positive, giving the negative feedback, and then sandwiching it with positive. But in as we improve as professionals, right? We have a better framework for actually giving feedback, and that's describing the situation, the behavior, the impact, and the intent. So the situation is when and where that situation happens, right? You have, and like I mentioned earlier, you have to be very clear and specific. So it happened at the Tuesday learning session, it happened during the team meeting, it happened at the office, as the case may be. You have to be able to describe the situation just so the team member knows what you're referring to. The next area in the framework is describing the behavior. What did you observe? And that's in your own opinion, because other members of the team may not have observed the same thing. So you're describing what you observed in the person. The third major pillar of that is the impact. Just so the person is receptive to the feedback, you have to be able to communicate what the behavior, the impact of that behavior on you as a person, on the team, and on the organization. If you're not able to paint this picture clearly, it might seem as a form of personal attack. But in breaking it down to how it affected you, if it did affect you, how it affected the team, and how it affected the organization, the team member is able to relate to why that feedback is necessary. And the additional I is intent, right? I have to be able to, from the other person's perspective, understand why they acted in such way. That's an opportunity to learn. That is an opportunity to identify improvement opportunities. That is an opportunity to also help the person see things from a different angle, right? Like I mentioned earlier, you do not know what you do not know. And that way you're able to facilitate a two-way discussion. And that also helps to ensure that it doesn't feel like a personal attack. It doesn't feel like you're picking on the person. You're trying to help the person walk through their current situation to become better. So the most ideal feedback framework would be to describe the situation, describe the behavior, what the impact of that behavior is, and to encourage discussion, understand what the intent around that behavior is. We'll watch a video shortly on examples of giving feedback. 1 minute. That was...
Diplomacy Dojo with Dr. Ann Su. Do you struggle giving feedback to employees or colleagues? Would you like to know how to give corrective feedback in a way that's supportive? I'm going to show you how to consistently transform feedback from things that sound vague and judgmental, such as, you came across really dismissive and arrogant when answering questions, to things that are specific and supportive, such as, I think it'll help people connect with your work if you maintained eye contact and elaborated for longer when answering questions. I'm going to give you the 3 key steps, along with many examples, that will allow you to give useful feedback that improves performance while building trust with your team. The first step is to use non-judgmental language to describe their behavior. We all have part of our brain that's on alert for detecting social threat. It's the same part of the brain that detects physical danger. When we think we're being judged or criticized, this part of our brain lights up and gets us ready to defend ourselves by either fighting back or running away. It's the risk of setting off the social threat alarm that makes it hard to give corrective feedback. We can practice non-judgmental language by describing things as they would be registered by a video camera. These are words describing only what you can see or hear. A video camera doesn't recognize someone as acting dismissive, aggressive, or cutting people off. It can only capture that someone rolled their eyes, spoke in a louder tone of voice, or started speaking before someone else finished. So instead of saying, you always shoot down ideas, you can say, you've pointed out many risks and drawbacks. Instead of saying, you dominated the conversation at the meeting, you can say, I noticed that you spoke more than others at the meeting. Instead of, you were very timid when giving your presentation, you can say, during your presentation, you spoke in a quiet tone and often looked down. While you shouldn't use subjective language to describe people's behaviors, what you can do is use a direct quote of what they said. A direct quote is something that a video camera can capture. So for example, instead of saying, you are very argumentative, you can say, you described someone using the word idiot. Studies find that employees really want the honest feedback that will help them improve, and managers really don't like to give it. This is largely because we tend to equate giving corrective feedback with telling someone that they're not good enough. We need to get beyond seeing positive versus negative feedback as being good versus bad. Feedback is not about being a good or bad person. We're all people that deserve care and respect. Feedback is about objective behaviors that can be affirmed or adjusted in order to achieve more effective outcomes. The second step is to frame the feedback with positive intentions. Research finds that the threat response is greatly reduced when people are reminded of support and care. In one study, researchers showed participants photos of hostile, angry faces and then measured the social threat response that was activated in their brains. Here is a graph showing the average level of threat response in people's brains when they saw the photos of the threatening faces. In another condition, before showing the threatening faces, some kind, caring photos were shown on the screen. Nothing was said. The photos were only shown on the screen, but the participants who saw the caring photos first and then the threatening faces had their threat responses greatly reduced. You can see on the left the average threat response when they only saw the threatening faces, and on the right you can see the threat response that's greatly reduced after they saw the caring, supportive photos first. This means you'll greatly reduce the chance of triggering a threat response if you motivate your feedback with a supportive frame. This means that you believe on the inside and you communicate on the outside that your feedback is a gift wrapped with positive, supportive intentions. For example, imagine you had an aggressive team member. Instead of saying, stop shouting, you're never going to get people on board that way, you can say, I want people to hear what you have to say. When you speak in a loud tone of voice, people could feel intimidated and not take in the content of what you're saying. Or imagine if you had a member of your team that was always asking other people for help to the extent of interfering with their work. Instead of saying, stop bothering everyone, you need to learn to figure things out on your own, you could say, I want to help everyone develop their ability to problem solve. Can we talk about some approaches that you could use to solve problems on your own? The third step to giving effective feedback is to seek understanding of their perspective. This is your chance to understand what they think of the situation and really understand what's going on underneath. Studies find that we're wrong in our assumptions about what we think others are thinking and feeling up to 80% of the time. The only way to address issues effectively is if we understand what's going on underneath. So, for example, if someone is completely preoccupied with their phone throughout an entire meeting, they could be thinking the meeting is a stupid waste of their time, or they could be trying to handle an emergency. These same outer behaviors have very different underlying situations that would be addressed in very different ways. This means we ask open-ended questions to understand what's going on for someone else inside, and never assume that we know. We can use questions like, how do you see things? What are your views on this? From your perspective, what happened? In summary, the 3 steps for giving effective feedback are to describe the situation using non-judgmental language, to motivate the feedback with supportive intentions, to use non-judgmental curiosity to seek understanding of what underlies behavior. Giving effective feedback is a skill learned over time. The best way is to keep practicing giving both affirming and adjusting feedback using non-judgmental language and a supportive frame. Remember, feedback is not about being good or bad, and it's never about the person themselves. Instead, feedback is about objective behaviors that we can affirm or adjust in order to achieve more effective outcomes. For more tips and tools to practice effective.
Thank you. I guess that was somewhat of a long video for some of us, right? Are there any takeouts from that video? Anyone wanting to share? I don't want to have to call anyone. Hi, Aisine, please go ahead. Thank you.
So I think one thing I picked is addressing the issue and not necessarily the person, right? Even though they may be strongly aligned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aisine. Hi, Bukola. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Shakirah.
Morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the session. So my takeout is feedback is a gift, and I'll add that should be given generously. That's my takeout. Thank you.
Thank you, Bukola. Any other contributions? Hi, Samuel.
Okay, so I just wanted to also, mention that my takeout is that should always try to address the issue and not the person. Take the person out of the discussion and address the issue head on.
Thank you, Samuel. And that's largely and closely related to behavior in the SBII framework, right? So you're attacking the behavior and not the person. And that makes it easy for the person to step out of that situation and see how that behavior has impact on other team members and even the organization as a whole. Thank you, guys.
Diplomacy Dojo with Dr. Ann Sue.
Right. So we move on to receiving feedback, right? So now being in the passenger seat as against the driver's seat, what are effective ways of receiving feedback? One is be proactive in requesting feedback. Yes, the organization does have performance appraisal cycles, but as an individual who wants to improve and become better at their job, at their craft, it's important that we request feedback. And this isn't just for the workplace alone. You also need to request feedback in your personal life, in your relationships with people, or even in people you work with more frequently and maybe less frequently, right? It's important that you request feedback at the end of the session, at the end of the meeting. How can I improve on the delivery of my work? In receiving feedback as well, it's important to be open-minded. Most of us come to those discussions, but when it seems like you're about getting feedback, we have these walls or these guards set up in our mind. It's important that we're open-minded, just so we're able to mine the insights from that discussion. Closely related to that is you have to listen to understand, not to defend. For some of us, we're waiting for the manager to land to give it back to them straight, but in being open-minded, you're trying to understand, you're trying to see things from the other person's perspective. You're trying to even identify your blind spots, which ideally you wouldn't know, right? So the idea is to listen, to understand, not to defend. It would even be ideal to mull over that discussion, try to process it in your head, like I think they say, just so you're sure that you're not defending, but you understand what is being said. A good quality would be to recap your understanding, just so that the person giving the feedback can confirm that you got the message that is being delivered. Closely related to that is you have to disentangle the who from the what. So for some of us, we do feel like superstars. Yes, I have over 9 years of experience. I have over 20 years of experience, right? I'm good at my craft. I'm the best in the field. I'm a thought leader and stuff. But in receiving feedback, you have to separate the. So in instances where it seems like the feedback is coming from a junior team member or someone that you feel has less experience from you, try to separate the who from the what. Just like for giving feedback as well, separating the who from the behavior. In receiving feedback, you have to separate the who from the what. Then also, you have to separate the speaker's intent and impact from our assumptions and distortions. We all assume. We all have a different view to things, right? But we have to separate. So, and for some of us, we do think that, oh, this person is coming for me. This person has me in mind, and that's why they're always picking me out or always highlighting this thing. But we have to, in receiving feedback and being open-minded, separate what the intention behind the feedback is, and just addressing that feedback itself, right? Rid yourself of any assumptions, any distortions, and just listen to understand. To also ensure that you're getting the right message, seek to get more context, more information. Ask questions. Is this what you mean? This is how I saw it. Is this what you're trying to refer to, right? Get more context just so you're able to get the information very clearly. Another point is to use it as an opportunity to identify and implement improvement opportunities. Without feedback, we would not know how best to improve on ourselves, either positively or negatively. We're getting appreciation, for example, or we're being evaluated. Without feedback, we would not be able to easily identify opportunities for improvement. So see it as an opportunity to improve on yourself. See it as an opportunity to work on that area. See it as an opportunity to problem solve. Both for yourself and maybe largely for the team. Last but not the least is challenge yourself. See challenges as an opportunity to be curious, to learn, and to improve, right? Getting feedback is a challenge that is being thrown at you. How can you look at that situation more intensely to try to unravel the insights from there, right? How can you learn, both for yourself and also for other team members? And then how can you improve on yourself? Yes. So we've given feedback, we've received feedback. How do we move on from there, right? In receiving feedback, more importantly, show appreciation for the feedback. It shows that you're willing and committed to improve on yourself. Like I mentioned earlier, see it as an opportunity to learn and improve. Recap what has been discussed just to confirm that you got the message that is being passed across. And also in that scenario as well, try to chart a path to improvement. What do you want to improve upon? What should you be measured against? What progress do you want to see at the next meeting, for example, or the next session, or the next instance where that behavior will be demonstrated? You also have to track your progress as an individual. Okay, so it has been mentioned that I deliver subpar work. How do I intend to improve? In a week's time, what's my progress? In 2 weeks' time, what's my progress, right? So you have to continually track your progress over time, just so you're implementing the insights from that feedback. And then, like I mentioned as well, always proactively seek feedback. Have regular follow-up sessions. So if you're being given feedback as it relates to work, ask your line manager, how's my work this time? What can I improve upon? If it relates to interpersonal relationships within the team, at a team meeting, seek feedback from the team. What should I improve upon? Am I doing better this time, right? So have regular follow-up sessions. Just it shows that you're committed to improving and learning. So yeah, that's my session on feedback and giving and receiving it like a pro. Before I continue on the bonus session, I would like to call on Ola. Hi, Ola. What stood out for you in what has been delivered so far from this session?
Hi, Shakira. Good morning. Can you hear
morning.
me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so what stood out for me the most was the video, the part of the video. It was more like a summary of the idea of intentions and goals or perception of feedback. You know, the speaker said something like the feedback is not whether it is bad or good. I hope I'm not using the wrong word. But
whether you're good or bad as a person.
So it's not whether the feedback is not whether a good one or a bad one, but something that has to be done to foster adjustment or to make you a better person. So the fear of I don't want to offend this person shouldn't be the case, or the worry of what if I say the wrong thing should also not be the case. Rather, it should be the case of what I want to say. I'm believing that it will help this person to get better, or it will help this person to stop what is wrong and be able to do what is right. So, and of course, it cuts across on both sides, whether receiving or giving. So yeah, it just made me realize that yes, the word feedback should not be seen as until today, something like that. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. But
yes, I do.
It should be, it has to happen if you want to grow. But of course, how it is done is now, you know, the other side of your conversation.
Thank you, Ola, for highlighting that, right? So, like we all watched in the video, right? It's not about being good or bad. Like you also rightly said, it's about a behavior that needs to be adjusted or improved upon. And in doing that, you're helping the person learn and grow. Thank you, Ola. Hi, good morning. What were your takeouts from the session? Hi, good morning. Okay, if Queen isn't able to speak. Hi, Augustina. Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Shakira, I'm fine, thank you.
Yes. So what were your takeouts from this session on feedback?
So personally, I got to understand that feedback is something that we should actually request for. We should look out for opportunities where we get the feedback. And I enjoyed the session where the speaker, the video, where she had to give some examples of the wrong way of actually giving a feedback and the right way or the actual way you should give a feedback. I actually love that part. So it means that if you want to give a feedback, you have to be very careful with the choice of words. You have to make sure you don't attack the person, but just address the issue with love and concern. And also, to me personally, I should be open to feedback.
All right then. Thank you, Augustina. So that would take me to my next bonus session in our spirit of radical candor. And in this session, my first part of this session, we'll be talking about mass nouns. Hi, Thomason. Morning. Please go ahead.
Hi, Shakira. Thank you. Sorry, I can't turn on my camera because of the network. I don't want it to throw me out.
No.
Okay, so I have, it's more of a question
Yes,
as regards the video and, what's been talked about. So in a case whereby, let's just assume our clients, right, don't know these things or they don't apply these things to, in manner in which they give feedback and also receive our own feedback. So, for example, if they give feedback, very vague one of, okay, something is not working, maybe an idea is not working, for example, or your designs and the copy lines are not working, right? And there's no specific reason as to why it's not working. So my question now is, in receiving such feedback, do you receive it with an open mind? And do you try to defend? Do you try to, I don't know if you get, my question.
Yes, I do get your question, and thank you for sharing, that is actually very relevant to what we do, and I'm glad that you're able to see ways to apply it. So first of all, it will be modeling good behavior, right? So in receiving such feedback, right, and the first attempt would be to model good behavior, and that show them how to give feedback, being specific, giving clear examples. For some of them, it's asking probing questions and open-ended questions to understand. Some people are not able to clearly articulate what they mean, right? It's in their heads, right? So use it as an opportunity to ask further questions. Why do you think this is? What do you mean by vague, for example? Is this what you mean by vague? You can also show them examples to kind of help them clarify that thought. And together, being a two-way communication, you're able to arrive at what they're actually trying to communicate. For some of our clients, yes, they probably do not know how best to give feedback. So model good behavior, ask probing questions, problem solve to arrive at the final answer, to arrive at the actual feedback that is being given. Show them examples of what they mean to kind of help them clarify their thoughts. And I think these steps would help to mine the insights from the feedback that is being given. Thank you. Hi, Afolabi. Hi, Thomas. I hope that answered your question.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Hi, Afolabi. Morning.
Good morning, Shakira. Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm good, thank you.
All right. So mine has to do with a personal experience here. So my former agency, yeah. So when I resumed, I was supposed to go for a client meeting. So the driver, yeah, the guy was driving rough all through the Tall Milan Bridge, and it was scary, yeah. That I was like, no, I couldn't say anything because I'm new on the job. I don't want to say something. So the second time again, it happened. So after we got to the island, I'll tell him that, Mr. Dozie, also I can't remember his name. So I was not like, the way you are driving is quite rough, and please, we don't have double life, it's just one. Can you just be careful? Because this is the first time I've been driving. I've been driving since I've been doing this. I was like, that is not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to let you know that please be careful while driving. The guy didn't listen. The third time it happened again. The guy was just like, I've been driving since before they even, the one that even pissed me off was when he said before they even bomb me. And I was like, yo, how old are you? You're trying to use before they bomb me. So I didn't send, I just kept quiet. So when I got back to the office, I had to go to the admin because admin is in charge of the drivers and all. Then I reported the issue that, this is what has been happening, and it's becoming like a threat to my life the way he's driving, and I'm not comfortable with him taking me on any client meeting and all. I don't know what transpired between him and the admin. Then ever since, the guy just, if he sees me, he'll just be frowning his face, say hello, he won't even respond. And I was like, yo, we are all here on different terms. You get your pay, I get my pay. So I'm not even here for you to even say hello to me. And if me saying hello to you
you're not responding because I like let you know that what you're doing is not right. And because you're not listening, I have to take it to your line manager to let them know that, oh, this is what is happening. And you just stop talking to me. So ever since, so in that scenario, should I have not reported, or I should just keep going while the guy is just like, oh, I've been driving before they bomb me? So in that scenario, what could I have done better?
Okay, thank you, Afolabi, for sharing. And that's a typical experience we would all have, right? I think as humans, we do struggle with radical candor, right? And that's from a position of feeling like you're being attacked, or your experience or whatever it is being questioned. And that's why I did share some tips in giving and receiving feedback, and also a framework to use. We also do have to bear in mind that when giving feedback, people might feel a sense of attack, right? And that's why with radical candor comes care, comes empathy, and also comes challenging the behavior and not the person, right? In that situation, it's possible the person is older than you, which is also another factor that people struggle with in giving and receiving feedback. So for some people, they feel, oh yes, I'm way older than you. You do not have right to give me feedback. For some people, they feel they have a bit more experience than you, so you do not have, and you do not have the right to give feedback, right? So we have to show care, and as much as we can, try to let the person know that we care about them. So in that instance where there's a likelihood of being in an accident because of that very rough driving behavior, is describing the behavior when and when. What is the impact of that behavior? Because if you do not, clearly articulate what the impact is, the person might feel they are doing the right thing. So it might be in an accident which may cost him his life. You may both be in an accident that may cost you your life. You may get into a situation where you're in you're being caught by the authorities. It could even impact his job. When he paints that picture, he's able to clearly see the impact of his behavior on himself, on you as a team member, and maybe the organization as a whole. If you also paint it in a way that it threatens its source of livelihood, it's likely to take it a bit more seriously, right? But in giving that feedback, we have to let the person know, understand that it's coming from a place of care. It's coming from a place of wanting to help the person improve, right? The fact that he's been driving several years doesn't take away the fact that he can become better at driving. I feel those few tips would help him better receive the feedback, and also help you pass the message more carefully and intently. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much, Shakirah.
You're welcome. Yes. So in the last few minutes, I'll be taking us through a few things in the spirit of radical candor. And the first is mass nouns, right? So by definition, mass nouns are nouns that are plural in nature. What that means is that you do not have to pluralize those words, right, by putting S. So they are naturally plural in nature. So I want a few of us to identify mass nouns from here that are by their nature plural. So I'll start first. Water, right? So you do not have waters, for example. There are instances where you have waters, but by very nature of what water is, it's water. Potential as well. You do not have potential. It's actually potential. Table, table has a plural form. So table. Dress, dresses, right? So is anyone able to also identify other mass nouns in this table? I don't want to have to call on anyone. Please do me the honors. Okay, looks like I'm being forced to. Hi, Timlane, Funny, morning.
Hi, good morning. Perception.
Morning. Perception, thank you. Hi, Taiwo, morning.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. Are you able to identify another mass noun on the screen? Feedback, yes. So it's not feedback, it's feedback. Thank you. Hi, Dere.
Hi.
Good morning. Hi, morning. Are you able to identify another mass noun?
Yeah, I was going to say feedback because I know I've received a lot of correction with Jada has always corrected me on that. So
okay,
yeah.
That's good. Are you able to identify another mass noun on the screen?
No.
Are you sure? Should I come back to you?
Yeah, you can come back to me.
Okay, that'd be great. Hi, Daniel. Morning. Hi, Daniel. Morning.
Hello.
Morning. Yes. Are you able to identify another mass noun in the table? I'm sure we've honed our skills with Kahoot now, so we should be good on timing and
Music.
Yes, music. Thank you. Hi, Ife. Morning.
Good morning, Shakirah.
Morning. Is there any other mass noun you identified?
Air.
Air. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So, like we've all agreed, so mass nouns do not have are by themselves plural in nature. So you do not need to add an S, right? So you can't say airs, for example, is air, both in singular and plural form. Thank you, guys. Closely related to that are other things that we do feel other words that have been identified or phrases, sorry, that have been identified that are actually wrong, and we have the right versions on the right back. It's not their feedback, it's feedback or the feedback. It's not take it personal, and trust me, we're all guilty of this, right? It's take it personally. It's not he's matured, he is mature. It's not the reason is because, it's the reason is that. It's not as at when due, it is as and when due. It's not be rest assured, it's rest assured. So I can hear you, all manner of lagging behind. I do say I'm a copy of that as well. It's actually lagging behind, not lacking behind. Yes, so rack your brain, return it, be patient, not exercise patience. I left my phone at home. Funnily enough, belated happy birthday, first come, first served, work experience. I have an upset stomach, right? So there are very many examples of this, right? And we would implore that we take note of this. So in the last few minutes, I'll just take this on as a question to myself, and I do want us to also introspect over this, right? So what feedback have you received that shaped who you are today? So for me, it's been, speaking up. When I started off in my career, I used to just be that very small Shakirah in the room. And my manager would tell me, Shakirah, you're smart, right? You do have ideas, speak up, right? And that's one thing I've learned over my career, to actually speak up. You do have instances where people will tell you, I'm just going to leave a meeting if it doesn't seem engaging, right? And it was one feedback that helped me in my professional career along the line. Another feedback I'm largely working on is being assertive. I think I've heard that throughout my career, right? And I think it comes through in how I approach situations, how I approach people, but it's a learning point for me, right? I know that for some of us, we have received feedback, maybe not necessarily in the best of tones or in the best of manners, but we should try to separate the who from the what, like I said, and just focus on that behavior. Be curious about how you want to problem solve it, how you want to learn from it and improve it. I hope with this and lastly, I'll be leaving you with this quote, right? It takes humility to receive feedback. It takes wisdom to understand, analyze, and appropriately act on it. with these few points of mine, I'll say thank you for listening to me. I'll hand it back to you, Samuel.
Thank you so much, Shakirah. That was really insightful and delightful. There were a lot of things that I actually learned from this session, and I hope everyone else was able to actually learn as well. As well as also mention that the theme for this month is not going to be just the theme and then we'll move on. This is something that we're going to keep practicing, keep measuring, as we go on. So please let's always take note of these things. As you already know, would also, ensure to do like a reinforcement by assessing what you've learned over the period of this month. So thank you everyone for joining this session. I wish you an amazing day, an amazing week ahead.